Kia ora koutou, hello everybody and welcome back to Epich Aotearoa, Create a Better Future podcast with your hosts Brian Osman and myself, Joe Hortai. As always, we have another incredible guest with us today, a man who needs no introduction, but we're going to do our best to give him one anyway. Here's a man whose name and example and reputation is synonymous with family, fun and laughter, as well as sincerity, care and authenticity, and humour, inspiration and community. He's been in the television and radio industry for more than 30 years, and to me the only thing that looks like it's changed on him is the colour of his hair. He's won multiple Best Presenter awards, deservedly so, which is a genuine reflection of his dedication to his craft and his service to people. He runs a highly successful production and facilities company called Whitebait Media. He has an outstanding resume, longer than the Old and New Testament combined, I have to say. He is a loving and dedicated family man who is passionate and committed to seeing and helping others succeed. And both Brian and I are fortunate recipients of that here in today's podcast. And he is a professional speaker, communications coach, the founder of the incredible organisation Easily Said. Ladies and gentlemen, Aotearoa, New Zealand, he is a Kiwi icon and a household name, presenting the one and only Mr. Jason Gunn. Welcome, brother. Thank you for being here with us.
Kia ora. I thought
good
you
was
were going
that?
to introduce Simon Barnett. I thought it was Simon Barnett on the show. Wow. That is, wow. I mean, we should just end it right here, right now. Because it is only going to be downhill from here. It's like... Thank you so much. I'm so humbled by that. And, you know, you took me on a bit of a journey with that introduction about, because sometimes it's easy for all of us to forget the journey we've been on, right, to get where we are today. Yeah. So I want to thank you for that, because that was a little journey into some of the things I've done. Some of them I've got right, some of them not so much.
Oh, well, we really appreciate you, Jason. We're grateful for the opportunity that we have to connect with you and also to help you elaborate more on some of the questions that we have, not only around Easily Said, but some of your journey in the past and things going forward in the future. So thanks again, and we'll dive into it right now. If that's all right with you.
Absolute pleasure. I've got my togs on. Let's dive in.
All right, Jace. My first question for you is around Easily Said. So can you just take us through and describe, so what is it, what was the catalyst as well for you deciding to, I'm going to create this, because it seems fantastic. And probably start with those two, what it is and what the catalyst was.
Well, I mean, I set up Easily Said because I've been a storyteller all my life, right? Ever since I've been little, and as a TV presenter and radio announcer, you're a storyteller. Well, what I've realised is that there is no greater gift in life, I think, than being able to say a few words to people, and not just say words, but really connect with people. I think there's a lot of people in the world talking to people, but there's less people actually connecting with people. I hear you here connecting with people, and big up for you. I just think it's amazing. That's what you do. A lot of people, it's their greatest fear. So a couple of years ago, I, out of the blue, had a massive heart attack, and it was like, wow, life-changing moment. And I got a call from my good friend, Phil Kogan. Now, Phil, of course, he made Spot On back in the day when I was making Son of a Gun. He did go on to multiple Emmy success in America. Me, not so much, and that's okay. But he rang me after my heart attack and said, you should do that thing you've talked about before. You should do that thing where you teach people how to speak, and not just speak, how to tell stories. And it's just, it's become this amazing business where I say amazing because I meet amazing people and I enable them to find their story, because we've all got great stories, and then I enable them to tell their story. I get them to put down the words they've written or out and just speak from the heart. I'm all about getting people to speak from the heart and not just from the head. Otherwise it's just facts and figures, and I don't know about you, but that's where I tend to fall asleep pretty quickly. Off. In fact, that sums up my entire school time, my career at school. Yeah, that was a lot of dozing off. So you know what? This is what I love. It's helping people, connect with others through speaking and through storytelling. And look, dare I say it, the gift that COVID has given me is that for many years, over 30, I learnt to tell stories and communicate, through a camera. And now we're all having to do it, right? And the two greatest fears for a lot of people, number one, speaking, Like they just hate it. What's the second fear they hate? Speaking on camera. Well, guess what? Welcome to the world of Zoom. Welcome to Teams. Welcome to FaceTime. We're doing all that stuff. So I'm able to pass on what I've learned, and I just love it.
That is beautiful. Awesome to hear. And so it's not been going very long. What's it, 2-3 years now? 4 years?
Yeah, only a couple of years. And it's really changed, as I say. It's, originally it was like, I don't like speaking. Jason will give me some tips. And now it's really, I really doubled down on the storytelling because I'm really big on that,
Yep.
I mean, as I say, that's the secret to connecting with people. And I help a lot of business people and bigger businesses with, just the craft of telling stories, because it is an art, it is a craft, and that's how you become memorable, when you tell stories. And we all tell stories during the day, except when we go to do a presentation, we introduce things called flow charts and pie charts, and it's like just giving someone a sleep tablet, really. So yeah, it's look, I get as much out of it as hopefully people get out of it. I just love the connections I make.
That is awesome. So good to hear, Jason. And thank you for elaborating and explaining and sharing that with us. I love the pieces about the importance of the connection because, I mentioned to you, and I just want to touch on a point here and thank you again, acknowledge you. I reached out to Jace for our audience that don't know through LinkedIn, that wouldn't know us from a bar of soap. We're a small-time little podcast. Would you consider coming? And within less than 20 minutes, like you got back straight away, and just a real testament, to the character that you are and the person, the integrity that you have, and we're just really grateful for that. So this ability to be able to, for you to speak on that and helping people share their stories, that just really aligned perfectly with what we want people to do when they come onto the podcast. We do feel the same, that everybody has a story, and if we can try to help
something happens,
that.
Something happens when you go on a journey with people. You have empathy. Like you're like, oh yeah, I'm like, tell me more. I want to hear more. And then, so there's the two steps: finding what your story is, and then finding a way to tell it. So you don't retell it, you relive it. And then the people listening are like, I'm right there with you. And, just maybe avoiding some of those tangents that we've all got that family member who starts the story and goes, let me tell you something. Now, was it Monday or Tuesday? No, was it Tuesday? What was Monday? Monday? No one cares. Sweetie, no one cares what day it was. No one cares. And so, we're just trying to really just find that story and then polish that story. And I'm all about polish because I see so many people get up to speak and they go, I'm terrified. And I go, and what might you have done not to be terrified? What do you mean? I thought as much. And they haven't set themselves up to succeed. The only thing they've done to not get nervous is, well, I hope this goes well. And that's not going to be enough.
So just on that, Jace, what do you advise people when they come to you with those sorts of, because that's a nice segue, I think. What sort of advice, what are probably this question, what are two things or one or two most common things that you find that people come to you with that are barriers for them to speak? And then what advice do you give them to try to combat that or help them so that they can get up and speak?
Great question. And I think that the two key things that people have are self-doubt and imposter syndrome. So, which are kind of the same. Yeah. And where does this come from? Well, I ask a lot of people who don't like speaking, hey, take me back to your school speech competition. And I see the eyes sort of roll back and they're like, give me a bucket. Because when you think back to those school speech competitions, they taught us everything that we shouldn't learn about speaking. But they taught us that the art of speaking is to have some cards in your hands, but never look at them because you've remembered it off by heart, my speech. It's like, yeah, but it's not a memory test, is it? Yeah. So why can't you look down? And if I'm speaking like this, it really isn't speaking from the heart. I'm completely speaking from my memory banks. You're also taught that it must be 3 minutes. Dad, we timed it again and it's 3 minutes 20. I'm going to lose some marks. Or, as I like to tell my kids, it's 1 minute, but how's bells, it's one hell of a 1 minute. So my thing, we learn things like duration and all sorts of crazy things. So the idea is you need to throw all that away, right? We don't learn to speak, and we get given subjects that we don't really care about either. I don't really need to do a speech on should school uniforms be compulsory. Don't care. So it's like, we learn so many bad things in our school speeches. But getting back to imposter syndrome. what we learnt back then is when we stand up in class, we look around the class and we feel judged. And you should, because the teacher literally is judging you. But also your classmates are going, oh, here we go, oh, here we go. So we learn that, oh, I don't feel comfortable up here. We also learn that, oh, Jason Gunn just got up and made everybody laugh, so a speech needs to be funny. No, it doesn't. We learn all the wrong things, and then we've got this imposter syndrome. It's that little voice that says, well, who am I to be up here speaking on this Zoom call? I mean, there's other people that really should be talking. Who am I to be up here on stage? And then someone gives you a very kind introduction, as I was given just moments before, and you think, oh gosh, I hope I don't let them down. But here's the thing I tell people. I've been fortunate enough to work and help some big names in New Zealand sport and on television and on screen and on stage. They all suffer from imposter syndrome. They all have the same thing. So once you realise, yeah, we all get it because we all get it, then it's like, oh, right, so that's actually normal. I tell people, if you're nervous, if you're feeling that, I love it. Go with that. Because what it tells me is that you actually care about how this goes. The day you don't get nervous, the day you don't care how it goes, stop doing it. It's like, why do it? It's not about not getting nervous. It's about controlling the nerves. And for me, I talk people through different methods of finding a bubble and, just getting into the right state before you get up on stage or get on camera. Because we have this thing that for some reason we think, I'm not a speaker. Have you ever been taught to speak? No. It's not a natural thing. Yes, I probably talked a lot as a child, sure. But you know what? I've also put hours and hours and hours, instead of kicking a ball, I would just be out there talking, telling stories, watching people speak, watching performances, trying to mimic that. That was my school. That was my university.
Yep.
And so it's not natural. It is learnt. And I just reassure everyone that it can be learnt.
Beautiful, man. Just on that, who were some of the people that you would watch that you would try to mimic? We had Brian mention while we were off camera about Frank Spencer. I was supposed to give that introduction on Frank Spencer, but I didn't do that because I'm not very good at that.
Come on now.
But who were people that stuck out to you that you would look at and try to mimic and that you admired?
Well, I think, I think in New Zealand we are very lucky, and we were very lucky when I was growing up, that we had sort of the best of British and the best of America. I was fortunate enough that I enjoy, and still do enjoy British comedy over American comedy. So I'm showing my age here, but I grew up with just like absolute, just masters of the art, like Morecambe and Wise and the Two Ronnies, and just like you look at you look at the sketches, you look at the scripts, and look. And what I struggle with now, it's such an art form. Okay, I'm getting old, but when I see TikTok and Instagram, I go, hey, cool. I love that you can ad-lib something semi-interesting to the camera, but that doesn't make you a performer or a comedian or, I love the fact that it's an art. It's a bit like you've got a rugby ball, but you're not an All Black, right? It's like, cool. So that's why I grew up on these people who were just unbelievable with their timing and, the things that they could do. It was just, so I would watch that and study that. And like you talk about Frank Spencer, Michael Crawford. He was a master of physical comedy and also timing. People think it's easy. If you've ever, comedy is such a science, right? And it's all about timing. If you're a split second out, it's not as funny. And so it's about finding the timing and working that out. It's such a skill that takes years to master. So I grew up watching a lot of British comedians and that sort of stuff and just studying them and mimicking them. And when I would perform, I'd try and be like them. That's awesome. Yeah, and I guess that's why I'm still and will always be a bit of a performer as well as a coach.
Yeah, absolutely. We see that performance come through, but also that energy, which leads me into... Sorry, Brian, I'm jumping in here because I just...
Brian,
you're going to have to be quick.
Quite unbelievable, Brian.
I have to be quick. Yeah, oh, geez.
But, okay, go. No.
Brian, can I just have a cup of tea? No. Milk and one sugar, Brian. Thanks, mate.
I'll just...
Yeah, look, honestly, way you go, Brian. Good.
Go on, Brian. I'll let you have one. I was going to ask you about the energy, but you go.
Yeah, let me have one.
Go on, come on.
But it's actually something you said just a little bit earlier, Jason. And and you were talking, and it sounded like to me that when you were born, you were just like 100%, 100 miles an hour, like you were just full on energy, like growing all the way up. But I'm wondering, how much do you think is like, this is you, like you, and how much do you think is this? I need to develop me.
Yeah, it's interesting, because it's look, I know for a fact. See, at school, I wouldn't say me and the school system saw eye to eye. I wasn't just, or maybe I was disruptive. I was never like. I mean, look at me. I was never going to be a bully. But you know, I probably, if I was to be, this is going to sound arrogant. I think I had some. Got to be careful. I don't. Some of my teachers weren't the best. The reason I say that is I teach storytelling, and I think the best teachers I've ever had and that I see today are great storytellers. Right? They have these amazing stories they want to share with their pupils. Oh my God, you're not going to believe, here's a great, whatever. And you can tie stories into math, science, economics, geography, history, whatever. A lot of my teachers were, I'm going to write it on the board and then I'm just going to get you to write it down and then I'm going to rub it off. It's like, some might call that not teaching. So I don't know, probably for my own entertainment purposes, growing up, I had a lot of energy and I just knew from a young age I could entertain people, or I wanted to. I had an uncle. Here's his real name. His name was sadly passed away. Ray Gunn. His name. Ray Gunn.
Ray Gunn.
Before ray guns were invented, there was Ray Gunn. Yeah, and Uncle Ray Gunn. He had this ability to come to our house and sit around the table and tell stories. My dad had quite a dry sense of humour, but he could make my dad laugh like nothing I'd ever seen before. And that was like a magic power to me. I look at this man and go, how do you do that? Like, you've got my dad, and my dad always had a lot of work to do and wasn't stressed, but had a lot on. And he gave my dad this magic pill of escapism almost. And Dad would laugh and roll his head back. And I remember thinking, I want to be like you. That's just, to me, that's a magic power. It's like, it's bringing absolute joy to people. So I remember, I guess that was my why. I didn't ever think I was all that in a bag of chips. I was no Uncle Ray, but I just loved if I could be half the entertainer he was, what a gift that would be. And I guess that's been that. It's interesting, you know, because making like my early children's TV shows, like the Son of a Gun show, you know, I mean, I was like 20 and I'm just like full of energy. So all my life, I have had people go, oh, mate, what drugs, mate? Johnny's on the drugs and stuff. It's like, right. I'm just like, I mean, I don't want to disappoint you, but that's just me. It's like, and I'm not too sure if these people have either had no drugs or a lot of drugs that say this, but it would be impossible to be on television and do what I did if I was on drugs. Secondly, I used to take my job very seriously. Like, I was a role model for kids. So it's like, so possibly staying off drugs would possibly be a better option than... Exactly. But hey, look, people will believe what they want to believe, and I still get it today. But that was just honestly me. So I did have a lot of energy, and possibly as I've got older... Yeah, I do, but I'm now able to sort of control it more, you know, and sometimes I beat myself up because I go, all right, Gunny, just slow down. But then I go, oh yeah, I'd rather be loud than boring. So.
That's awesome. Such a good way for us to get a better understanding of those processes and what you've spoken about so far. And I'm taking away some really good points so far, which sort of leads me into this next one. When did you discover that communication was an art? I think I read in one of the articles or interviews with you where you sort of described that and that communication being an art, and I thought, man, that makes a lot of sense. When did that happen for you, do you think? Or
I probably learned it way back. I talk about children's television. Children's TV is prime time to me. Like, I want you to think about what you've got to do in children's television. You need to make my goal was, I'm going to make, who am I talking to, right? I'm always ever talking to one person. I'm going to try and talk to that one kid who has come home from school and mum and dad aren't home, nan's not home, whoever, they've got to let themselves in. Back in those days, the key was probably under the mat or the door was unlocked, but they let themselves in. No one was there to say to them at that time, how was your day, mate? Hey, listen, and if it was a bad day, no one was there to say, seriously, you know the great thing is, I can guarantee there is another day coming tomorrow. So let's just go with that one. So I wanted to be that person, to talk to that one person and really connect one-to-one. It's not till I started Easily Said, which was around the time that I was seeing a lot of people make videos on LinkedIn and different places. Yep. And you'd watch videos and go, oh yeah, I don't feel like you're talking to me. You're like talking to lots of people and you're not even looking down the camera. And it's like, well, maybe there is something I could pass on. And I remembered back to when, in fact, I did learn it, to finally answer your question, and that is in children's television, where you would go to hospitals and you'd visit children. And some of them would be here for a while. Horrifically, some of them would be here for a very short time. And they would never know the lessons that they would teach me in that time. And, I used to get quite upset because I met and lost a lot of beautiful young friends in those children's TV days. But, you would just have to form, you'd want to as well, create this connection with them, make them feel something, be present, really be here now and talk to them and go, hey, there's nowhere else I would rather be. P.S. That is the truth. And so that's when I learned that this art of connecting with people, it's everything. Life's about moments, right? And speaking is about moments. I want you to feel something. I want you to feel that in this moment I am here with you. I'm not busy thinking about the next thing I've got to go and do. I'm right here, and I'll only have this conversation once with you, ever. Nobody else. So I guess I learnt that back in children's TV days. What sort of response did you get back then? I remember it was a Monday or a Tuesday, and I was walking past the camera, and I said, and you get busy with what you're doing next. I remember saying, hey, whoa, thingy, hang on a minute, mate, before we go any further, I just need to say this. And I looked down the camera and I said, I don't know if you've had a haircut or something, but let me tell you, your hair is looking so good right now. It's looking good. Whatever you've done, leave it. And then we got on with the show. That wasn't a Monday or a Tuesday. On Friday, about 700 letters arrived going, Jason Gunn, I don't know if you live in the back of my television or what. How do you know I've had a haircut? What's going on with that? Exactly. And what it showed me was that people want to know. They want to believe that I am only talking to you. So like a magician, don't give away the trick. I don't do it. So that's why I try and advise people. Don't be like, hi everyone, how's it? How are you doing? Just like, whoa. If you can just talk to one person, so be it.
That is awesome.
That is awesome because I'm reflecting back to those earlier years with the children's TV and so forth, and then you're talking about the journey of the story, weaving that story and connecting with people, and I think we've lost that to some extent.
Oh yeah.
We've lost the ability to connect with people effectively. And yes, COVID has fast forwarded a lot of stuff. So now we just, and I find myself doing this when I'm on Zoom or whatever, and I'm looking at my screen, I'm looking at the people without actually trying to engage them in the camera. And I'm trying to be a lot more conscious of doing that.
Yeah. That's why I say to people, if you're on a Zoom call, one of the greatest things you can do is just nod. Eye contact and nod. Because if I'm on a screen and I see 30 faces, all I see, I'm naturally looking for is why is he on his phone? Is that man really gone to the kitchen? Really? But if I see a woman and she's sitting there and she's looking at me like this and she's nodding like this, I'm like, there you are. All I need is one person, right? And I think that's what I would tell anyone who's broadcasting their message or narrowcasting their message, however you're telling your message. Don't count the views. Don't count the likes. It's irrelevant. It's irrelevant, right? Here's my phrase, which I tell everyone at the moment and tell myself. Somewhere, someone needs to hear or see this. Just one.
Nice.
Just imagine that. Imagine today if you could say something or do something and just one person thinks, I'm better off for that. Oh my God. I mean, does it get better than that? Or you could try and appeal to everybody, in which case there's a chance you'll never actually connect with anybody. So we've got to stop counting the views, stop looking about comments, and don't worry, because somewhere someone needs to see and hear what you're talking about.
Powerful. It's beautiful.
That is powerful. That actually reminds me of a situation I had in the last 6 months when I do a lot of online training. So I deliver a lot of online training.
Great.
And I did it to a tech team, and we went through the training and all that sort of stuff. But one of the comments that came back from the feedback was, "We want less stories, please." I was like, "What?"
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I went, "Probably tech people." No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Tech people. That's not what I meant. No.
I want more facts and figures and pie charts.
Yeah. Okay, mate. Well, I'll send you. Well, do you know what I say to people when it comes to? I go, look, if you're gonna do pie charts and graphs and all that sort of stuff, look, just send me an email, mate. Honestly, just seriously. I'll go outside, kick the ball with the kids. You send me an email. I'll open it up and delete it in about half an hour. So it's like, so you're not going to please everybody, and that's a seamless segue to that. Is that, it's that people love Jason Gunn, but there are those that hate him as well, and it probably took me 20 years to get my head around that. And that you can't please everybody all the time. And I don't know, in some regards, do you want to go through this life as being vanilla? Yeah. I don't think anyone of significance did anything great by being vanilla. So again, I don't stand for hate or just anything shitty on I just delete or block people. I just got no time. I'm just like, not here, mate. This is my page. It's like, see ya.
Awesome. Great advice. I was going to say, when you were talking about, because I did some more research and having a look, when you were talking about the children's television times, that brought back memories as well with after school and stuff for me coming back and seeing you. But then I remember I didn't realise how many pies you had slammed into your face by the kids, and then rubbing their hands all over. And when I was looking at these days and age, I was looking at, I was thinking, imagine COVID in those days and all the children's hands that I saw rubbing this pies.
You could tell those kids once, you could tell them 1,000 times, don't push hard, whatever. No one ever placed a pie in my face. It was shoved. The other beautiful thing is, and these are glorious days. I mean, this happens all the time to me. The most humbling thing I have is that, 3 or 4 times a day, someone will say, "Hey, Jace," and I always think, "Oh, that is so cool." The greatest thing that I could take from anything I've ever done on television or radio is that, and particularly television, is that people know they can always come up to me and say, "Hey, how you doing?" It's like when I saw your beautiful request to come on here, right? I'm like, of course, oh my God, like of course I would be. I'd be honoured and humbled to do this. Like, we're all the same, right? We're all people on a mission, telling stories and trying to share information and help other people out. I always think, if I went to ask somebody, wouldn't I like to think they'd say yes? So it's that, it's that whole thing. Hey, we're all the same. I have just met a few people in my line of business who may think they're slightly better, and I try and have little to do with them.
Yeah. Good call. Good move. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. I love those parts because there's some stuff here that I want to go back to as well. You're speaking about, and I love the truth about everybody has a story, and somewhere somebody needs to or will benefit from and needs to hear what it is that I have to say or that you have to say or that they have to say. How do you advise people that just really, because and the reason I ask is somewhat selfishly, is that there's a number of people that I think for a while there thought that Epich Aotearoa was just about engaging with former Defence Force personnel on the podcast. But it isn't, because there's so many people that contribute to creating a better future, which both Brian and I yourself understand. But I will stop you there. I will say this. There's some great stories to be told there, right? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There is. And on that note, I've got a couple of, and I'm not going to name them for their own reasons, but they've got incredible stories. But they're like, I just don't know. And their biggest fear, some of their biggest fears that they shared, I want to share with you to see if you've heard anything similar to other people that you've helped over the years and stuff like that, is that their friends will see and hear and laugh at them. That's one of their biggest fears, that their friends would. Have you ever come across that? And if you have, what sort of things do you advise them in relation specifically to that, if they're worried about friends, let's say,
it can be work colleagues. Let me tell you a true story, right? So I'm in the cafe next door to my work about 6 months ago. This guy comes up to me and goes, "Oh, Jason, you do that talking thing, eh?" And I went, "Okay, well, obviously, gee, the marketing is worth the treat, Jason, obviously."
That talking thing, that one message. Yeah.
I wonder if anyone's gone up to Richard McCaw and said, "You do that thing with the ball, eh?" It's like, thanks, thank you.
Tackle thing.
I said, yes, I do that talk thing. Yes, that's right. And I said, well, he said, I've got the speech coming up, and I'm just not sure about it. I went, okay, well, what is it? And I said, look, I'll get the coffees. I said, look, we'll have a chat. We'll wait for the coffees. And he said, I've just it's my brother's funeral on Friday. And I was like, handbrake on. I was like, okay, number one, go and sit down. I'll get the coffees. I'll bring them over. So we sat down for like 20 minutes. I said, okay, so, dude, I'm so sorry. He went, yeah. It happened very quickly. And I said, so what is the problem? Are you nervous? He said, I've got to talk at my brother's funeral. But here's the thing. I run a large company, and a lot of my senior management team are coming down. He's in Christchurch.
Right.
And they're going to come down from Auckland. And, I've got a different sort of relationship with those guys. It's a bit blokey, or it's very corporate. I went, and? He said, if I get sentimental about my brother and stuff, I might get a bit emotional. So I'm thinking I'm just going to try and keep it just quite factual. And I went, okay, so let me get this straight. I said, so in this last moment that you get to stand beside your brother, in this last moment that you can speak of him in the present tense, here he is, so you can literally look to where he will be and say, bro, we did this, we did that. In this last moment, you're worried about what some prick from up north thinks because he works at what? You're going to give that away to appease them. And he went, because I said, after this day, your brother is past tense. He's back then, right after this. And he went, I see what you mean. I mean, dude, you need to know the strongest message you could give to them is to go, look, this is me. And I said, the three things at a funeral you need to know if you get upset. Number one, if you have to stop because the tears are coming, everyone's thinking three things. Number one, they're thinking, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. The second thing they're saying is, you just pause, mate. You just take a break. Yeah. Take a break. If you need to stop, stop. And the third thing we're all thinking is, if you fall, I'll bloody catch you, mate. We've got you. Yeah. We've got you. We're all thinking that, right? We're all thinking it. So anyway, he said, so we had a chat about this. And I said, tell you what, just go tell some stories, mate. Tell a story. And we worked on a story. Then I said, what time's the funeral? And he said, it's 3:30 on Friday. I said, tell you what, I'll leave work early. I don't know the guy. Yeah. It's 3:30 on the Friday. I said, mate, I'm going to come past on the way home. And what time are you on? What time's your set? Yeah. And he said, I'll be up first. I went, well, if you don't mind, I'll whip past, park the car. I won't be in a suit. I'll stand at the back of the hall or the place when you do your speech. And I said, and if you want to, I'm there to look at. And why don't you tell me all about your brother? Because I didn't know him. And I went, and it was just, I get emotional thinking about it, but he was just amazing. And he broke down, and I was at the back of the hall going, it's all good, it's good, just whoa. And he just told these stories, and he was so present, and he was so in the moment. And then I happened to bump into him, probably 6 weeks later. He was like, Chase, you will not believe the emails I've got. And I went, you know what? I actually reckon I would. And it's that thing. So to those people, I go, the word is permission. You have permission from the world to tell your stories. Yeah. Because like we say, somewhere, someone needs to hear or see this. So maybe they don't. And P.S., they're going to give you assholes for whatever you talk about anyway. You could not tell the story and they'll still give you assholes about your shirt or something. Yeah. Something. So just why not go and try and make a difference to somebody?
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Man. I
like that.
Oh, sorry, go, Brian.
No, I really like that because it's almost like when I'm listening to you tell that story, Jason, and I felt like I was there.
Beautiful.
I could see the coffee table. I could see you at the back of the hall go. Yeah. Like this sort of thing, you can almost feel it, and I guess that's what you mean by the art and being that present and connecting with the people. Yeah. And I loved how you said at the end it was, I don't know you, brother. Yeah. I don't know you, but tell me about him.
That's it. And honestly, and you know what I know, and I think I'm extra sensitive, emotional since my heart attack. Like that's the one thing that's really changed me as dad. So, and I talk a lot about that day in whenever I'm doing keynote speeches or that sort of thing. But one thing I've noticed is I allow myself to step back into the moment. So when I could tell you very quickly about having a heart attack and the day I went in there, it was really upsetting. God, it was scary, it was sad. I felt bad for the kids, but hey, I've turned out all right. And you go, okay, that's cool, I remember that. Or I could, and I won't, I promise, but you can walk people through that day, in which case and I always cry when I tell that story again, because I talk about what it's like to lie on a hospital bed and think, maybe maybe this is how it ends. Maybe. See, I can get emotional thinking now because I think, wow, maybe that whole shit about me going on to live a long life and being there for my kids' weddings, shit. Maybe I actually don't have as much control. This is where it ends today. I had never thought that. That's a very powerful place to go. And I step back into that and I tell people that story and I go, you don't need to have a heart attack to take yourself here to go, well, maybe you're not in control of as much as your life as you think. Shit can happen, right? So what are we doing today just to be grateful? Who have you told today, I love you, that maybe you weren't going to? Those little things like that. So I feel the gift that heart attack gave me was permission to be emotional and to tell stories and just slowly walk people through it. Because that's when you'll feel like you were there. If I want you to feel grateful for not having a heart attack and still having your family, I won't rush that story.
Yeah.
I want to place you right there beside me.
Yeah.
And that's the true art of storytelling, is just going. The problem is now with Instagram and TikTok, if you could just do that in 15 seconds, that'd be awesome. It's yeah, I don't know if I want to do that. I could, but I don't think I want to.
Yeah.
So yeah, look, I look, thank you for saying that, because I think that's what I try and do and try and teach people, is just give them permission to. You know, there's a great phrase which I love and I tell a lot of people, and it's this. It's my favourite phrase. And I think it was Theodore Roosevelt, the US president, said it. No one cares how much you know until they know how much you care. Yeah. And I just love it. It's like, wow, I get it, right? So you've got all the stuff you want to tell me, but until I can see that you give a damn, I'm not going to give a damn. Right? So just let me see how much it means to you. And then it becomes contagious. And I'm like, damn, I want a slice of that bread that Chase has got.
That is awesome. Yeah, so well put. And it ties in because we have actually got questions for you about your heart attack and that stuff that happened. And we'd love for you to take us through that, but we'll come to that when we get to that piece on here. But I just wanted to but connect with and just acknowledge you and thank you for that advice that you shared about the story with the person that you met in the coffee shop, doing that communication thing, that talking thing, and just the way you supported him through that. But just listening to that, I agree with Brian. I could visualize you standing at the back. Oh, here I am, like staying out of the way.
Yeah.
But, you know, he can visually see you and go, man, he came by, and I could imagine how that would have made him feel, and having the opportunity to be able to see you and be speaking to you, that one person as you've spoken about already.
Yeah.
Powerful stuff, and I hope that, well, not I hope, I know that some of our listeners, those that I just spoke about, they've drawn a lot of strength through people like you that have shared their messages and stories on this platform, and I know that they'll draw a lot of strength from that. So thank you for answering that and sharing those.
No, look,
bits
thank
of
you,
gold.
and I appreciate you saying that. And you know, I know what gets me through the tough days. And hey, Jason isn't always full of beans and full of. I have my grey days like all of us, and I've learnt that in those days, the best thing I can do is go and do something for somebody else. It doesn't mean every day I go and stand at the back of a funeral home, but it does mean that some days it's a coffee. And again, I'm all about creating a moment.
Yeah.
I'm blessed that I was given a profile that it's easier for me to, in many regards, you know, that's an in for me to go and have conversations with people. I don't assume everybody knows me, but I can see if they do, and then I can go, hey, hi, how are you? You know, or whatever. But on the days you feel not okay, I find the best thing is to just ask someone else how they're doing. And here's the key: stick around to hear the answer. Yeah. Crazy idea. or maybe buy them a coffee. Why? Because I can. I'm buying me one. Shut up. It's seriously, just take it. You know, it's like on those days like that, what you're doing is you're creating a moment. It seems a tiny moment for you, but if that person is having the shittiest of days, it could be the biggest moment in their day.
Yeah, 100%. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So that is powerful, because how many times do we have when we engage with people and they go, hi, how you doing? And they're straight into the conversation. They don't mean it.
Yeah.
Totally. And you see people online, you see people on camera go, g'day guys, how you doing? Listen, on today's show, it's like, what? Now, I'm not saying you have to say how you're doing and pause for an answer, but at least look like I'm wishing you could tell me. Yes, it's a rhetorical question, but still, I'm not running 3 or 4 things just off my tongue because it's the right thing to say. You know, it's like, that's, again, it goes back to children's television, looking down the lens and saying, hey, how you doing?
Love the haircut.
I hope you're having a great one. Yeah, love the haircut. And I hope you're having a good day. It's just because they can't all be good. The funny thing is now, it's not funny, when I make videos on Facebook or Instagram, sometimes they're a bit stupid and, you know, and I like to be a bit nutty. But every now and then, you know, I also like to just be real and be heartfelt. And the one message I see coming through more than ever is, oh, sheesh, Jason, mate, I needed to hear that today. Thanks, Jason, I really needed to hear that today. And you're like, wow, okay, sure, that's powerful. Yeah. So never underestimate who's out there not commenting that, because boy, oh boy, there's people out there. But there are a lot of people out there. But now more than ever, reassurance and just that, you know, that sort of thing, that I'm here for you, that has never been more powerful, right?
Beautiful. Awesome. You're connecting so many things in line with questions that I've got coming up, but I want to I want to acknowledge not only that, but also I love how you talked about you're just giving permission to share their stories or to tell their stories. Yeah. That's a great point, and you elaborated on that really nicely as well. But I also love this, and wondering if you could speak to this as well, Jace. The link between confident communication and well-being is immense, and how immense that is. Would you mind just speaking and elaborating a bit more on that? Because that, I think I understand in my own head the truth of that and how important that is, which I never really sort of thought of in that way until I read your words and that comment. But I'd love it if you could speak about that and that connection.
Well, you know, thank you. It's on so many levels. Let's just start saying, isn't it great that, you know, we're able to talk about where we're at and how we're at, right? I mean, I look at my dad's generation, and that didn't happen. Do you know what? I will tell you a quick story. I interviewed John Kerwin once, and I said, what's the greatest thing, mate, that out of everything you've done, is there something which sticks out? Is there a moment? He told the story about this old farmer who'd gone to the doctors in the middle of nowhere, right? And the doctor's giving old Bert, you know, 85-year-old Bert, probably 105-year-old Bert, giving him the check. Oh, you're still going, Bert? You're still driving? The knees, they're all good. How's the hip? Has the arm come right? Bert's like, oh, yeah, no, I'm good, thanks, Doc. No, it's all good. Tickety-boo, still on the farm with the missus, you know. And then as he's getting up to go, he says, hey, as he's getting up to go, he says, is there anything else, Bert? And Bert goes, oh, actually, Doc, I reckon I've had a bout of the JKs recently. Now, what he's been able to do, John Kerwin, he's gifted that man the ability to say, I think I'm depressed, without having to use the word depressed. What an insane gift, right? That through what JK has done, that older guy was able to say to his doctor, I'm actually not feeling 100, to be honest, and I actually don't know what it is. So I think the ability to be able to speak and say how we are, we don't need to know why or anything, but just talk about that openly is everything. I struggle. Look, as I say, I have grey days some days. I always say to my kids, it's a bit like when you go to the airport and the plane takes off the runway, right? Some days you're straight into the blue skies. Beautiful. Other days you take off, oh, she's a bit grey, she's a bit cloudy, but you always pop out, don't you? You always pop out on top of the clouds. But sometimes it takes a couple of seconds, and sometimes it takes forever you're in those clouds. And I reckon that's a bit like how we can all feel a bit blah some days. We've got to understand that some of us are going to be in the clouds for a lot longer than we want to be. But if we can talk to the person in the seat next door to us about this, that's the secret, right? You need to be able to say, oh, you know what, it's a bit tough. Particularly now. I'm not getting the work I was. I'm not having got the same oomph for life that I have. I'm just feeling a bit empty. The ability to be able to say how you are, because you know what you're going to get back? Oh, yeah, I'm the same, mate. Yeah. What? What?
Tell me more.
Do you also feel? Yes. What? It's that, and once we realise that, that's like, and there's that permission word, right? I give you permission to feel a bit shit. It's like, great, because we're all there, matey. Yeah. And particularly for men too, because we must hold it together. No, we mustn't. That never ends well. You know, so I guess that is the link for me, is just being able to just say a few words about you. You know, and I'm lucky. I've got 4 beautiful children, and I'm very honest with them. They know if I'm 100% and if I'm not, and they know that the greatest medicine for me is them. So they'll ring me and go, "How you going, Dad?" I go, "Oh, things are a bit quiet at the moment." "Dad, you know what that means? What? We could do 3 or 4 holes on the golf course," says my son Louis. I went, "Actually, you know what? We could." So it's about, and they make me see things a bit different. So. Yeah, that link is everything, eh? You need just being able to say how you feel, and be vulnerable, right? Just be vulnerable, and not hide. Just be real. That's one of the things I talk about is and now I'm just free forming, but when I talk about communications, I have a word which I use, and the word is heart.
Heart.
H-E-A-R-T.
I was going to ask you about that.
Heart.
Yeah.
Right, and that's the word, right? And it's like an acronym. That I think it's an acrostic poem. You take the letters of heart and you turn them into something else.
Yep.
And this is how you communicate with confidence and connect with people all the time. The H in heart stands for heart. Always speak from the heart, not just the head. We've talked about it. Not just facts and figures. Speak from the heart. Say what you mean what you say. The E in heart stands for empathy. I understand what you're going through. Boy, that must be tough. Things are difficult at the moment, aren't they? There's a great story. There's a difference between empathy and sympathy, right?
Yep.
Sympathy is, I see someone in a hole and I look down and go, "Wow, I'm feeling for you. That must be really tough for you down there." Empathy is, I jump in the hole and I go, "Well, this is pretty shit, isn't it? Seriously, I'm here with you, right? And how shit is this? Let's work together to get out of here." So empathy is letting people know that you get where they're at. The A is for authenticity. Like, just be you. Everybody else is already taken. I'm sorry about that. And you have your own stories and your own experiences. The R is huge. We talked a bit about this. It's reassurance. If you could give me or help me with my plan, if you could help me with a roadmap to how it's going to be okay, just even tell me it's going to be okay, that'd be awesome. And the T is tell a story. Just tell me a story, because that way we're going to connect. So I find that little formula just works wherever you are, whoever you're talking to.
That's perfect. And you answered that question as well, because I wanted you to lead into that as well and explain that HEART acronym or acrostic poem.
Great.
But,
great.
Beautiful, and you've articulated that well. I really love those points around the heart and the empathy and just the descriptions for those, because, I think I've been guilty at times of not quite being as empathetic as what I should be. And so it's really nice. And to see the messages that you put out. This is one thing that I wanted to ask as well, because it ties in. I feel like I get that stuff and I feel it come through your videos and stuff. And I wanted to ask you, the editing, like they're short 1 minute, 2 minute videos and stuff on there. But when you're putting those in and you add your humor, the tonality, the facial expressions, everything combined, it just makes the messages, for me at least anyway, a lot more interesting and engaging. How long does it take do you do the editing?
Yeah. See, I love editing, you see.
Wow.
I love it because for me it's actually an exercise in mindfulness. So when I finished my pieces to camera, I go, here we go. and because I'm a storyteller, and if you could give me anything, really what I want to do is be in film, because I just motion pictures I just love them. You're talking to a man who collects movie soundtracks. He's pretty geeky. So I love music. I love what that can do. I love all that stuff. So telling the story and putting the words out is the first bit, and then I go, how can I make this better? So again, that's why I get Instagram and TikTok. I get all that. That sometimes you've just got to be raw and real, and there's a place for that. And you go, hey, here we go, boom, boom, boom. But other times you think, well, there's a lot of content out there. What could I do to make this a little bit more entertaining or funnier or more heartfelt? What music could I add? How could I speak? How could the shot change? How can I capture people? How can I keep them watching for this long? So what can I give them as a teaser? Or how can I make them feel this will be worth sticking around for? So one thing I often do is I'll record everything in one size shot, and then I'll often have these cutaways where it'll be me closer going, you know what I mean, right? And it's the little asides. Oh, you'll say something, and if I find myself wanting to go, okay, oh, don't be stupid, Jason, or whatever, I'll do those asides. So I'm almost taking the piss out of myself, in those things, you try and keep them quite quick. Again, comedy, timing is everything. So I'll just sit there and no. I did one the other day, and I was going to talk about the Will Smith incident at the Oscars, and I mentioned it quickly, and I put a sound effect of a slap in there, and it was playing, and I thought, it's not right. I must have spent 15 minutes pulling it apart, going, why is that not? It's not working. It's not funny. And the slap was half a frame out. It was just like, and so I'm quite particular. Yeah. But, I always think if you want it to be memorable, sometimes you've got to stick around that bit longer. So it's a skill and it's an art form that anyone can learn. And there is a place for being raw and real. Yeah. But there is also a place for being polished as well.
Yeah, beautiful. They certainly look polished. And I wanted to ask you around, how many takes do you take, like on a typical, like say do you have a set number, or do you generally, when you're speaking, it seems to come across pretty natural? Well,
what you've got to ask yourself, and thank you, what you've got to ask yourself is, again, the method of cutting just depends on what I'm telling.
Okay.
So you'll notice if I'm telling quite a heartfelt story or something about how I really feel and I want to bring you somewhere, there'll be no cuts. Yeah, because it's like, I need to be present with you. This is not an inability to break it up with cuts or with audio sound effects. It's like, I'm here with you now, we're going to have a conversation. Instead of using cuts, I'll use tonality. I'll speed up and I'll slow down and I'll pause. I'll cut it up with the way I'm going to present it.
Gotcha.
So that's how you get heart, right? If it's going to be a bit quirkier and it can still have heartfelt moments, those are the ones that you might cut up. Or if you want to quickly give an example of someone doing something badly, you might cut that up like that. So depending on the sort of message you want to give, that dictates what sort of cutting you'll do.
Nice. Awesome. Beautiful.
Did you know what? It's interesting when you describe that. This is perception in my head. I suspect, and again, it's probably just a perception that we get through a TV camera or what have you.
Yeah.
That Jason Gunn is able to talk off the cuff, and he's got a lot of energy. He can tell jokes just like that. But what they don't realize is all the work that's behind the scenes. Yeah. And the precision that goes into the craft to help portray or to give that message.
Well, someone said, thank you. Yeah, someone said, and I thought the other day, I'm going to record me making some content in an upcoming video. Because I want people to see that some days I'll do 23 takes of a little. Now, here's the thing, if it's a cut up video, right? And even it's interesting, when I'm talking about some things, I'll have a talk with myself, because I always say, you got to get into a little bubble before you go on. And here's the question I ask before every video, before every Zoom, whatever you do, if I get on stage, what do I want them to know? What do I want them to feel? And what do I want them to do? Right? So there must be a call to action or something. And how do I want them to feel when they've watched this video? And what do I want them to know? Right? So it's like, okay, so there is a desired outcome. I'm not just talking because it's like, look at me. So it's like there is a desired outcome. And so sometimes I'll go, I've done this enough that I could still tell you a story about the day of my heart attack and have one crack now. If we did it 18 times, could I still find in there that place I could take myself to? Yes. Have I sort of trained to do that? Yes. Is it real? Absolutely, it's real. But I can keep going back there. For a lot of people starting out, after like 2 or 3 takes, you've got to be careful because you can lose some of that authenticity, and you can just go into you just start telling the story. You've got to remind yourself, if I'm not going to use that first take, that's because it never freaking happened, right? So you need to start again. You need to start again. So, look, some takes, particularly if it's comedy based, I'll do. I'm even a line. It might be really, 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 and then I'll play all 12 versions out, and I'll work out. That's too long. It's funnier if it's quick. Or that pause is good. So I will look at it, and you'll look at it. And it's all about pace and timing. And sometimes a pause works. Other times it's got to be real quick. So sometimes it'll be one take, but most times it's multiple takes, and then looking back at it and seeing what works best. Yeah.
Awesome. I love, and I would like you now, if you wouldn't mind, because I've got a couple of questions in here. One is, pre the heart attack, did you feel like you had any regrets about anything? And then the other one is post heart attack. You know, were there any not light bulb moments, but epiphanies or thoughts, because you've spoken about, and so this is where I guess I'd love it if you wouldn't mind taking us through that process for you of the heart attack itself, and what you've learnt about yourself or discovered, and those other points about, you know, were there any regrets? Did you feel you had any before, and or have you had any post then, if that makes sense?
No, look, thank you. Great questions. I didn't know. I was making radio at the time, and where I'd ended up on the show on radio, I wasn't enjoying it. I found it very stressful, to be honest. There's no non-arsey way of saying this. I just thought the content I was making was really average.
Right.
And I am a perfectionist. That's nobody else's fault but my own. I grew up watching the two Ronnies, right? And Morecambe and Wise. That's a problem. It needs to be that, or I don't want to do it. And that's the reason I ain't doing 25 takes sometimes, or I just want it to be as good as it can be. Yeah. Even if we can get one take because it's live, I want it to be as good as it can be. And it wasn't that at all.
Right.
And I put up with that for probably, I knew it, and I knew it was going that way. And it was like, and I just, and I was also trying to start up a YouTube channel, probably because I was frustrated. And so, I guess I just overloaded the system basically,
right.
And should have just listened to myself, trusted myself. You know, you're getting paid silly money to make to tell average stories, and it was like, and I'm more than that. Like I don't think I can't sleep at night knowing, well, it's a lot of money for pretty average Jason. So that just doesn't that doesn't sit right with me.
Yep.
It doesn't. I could be adding more to society in other ways. So then, of course, I'm at the gym. Don't go to the gym, by the way. They give you heart attacks. And I'd been doing some work, and I'd been fine. The day before, I'd had a bit of a funny, what the hell is that feeling? It's like, it's a feeling that I hadn't had before.
Right.
Like the worst sort of indigestion, but not indigestion.
Yeah.
Then the next day, and it went away after about 30 seconds or a minute. And the next day, I'm at the gym. There it is again, and it didn't go away. It just got bigger and this is uncomfortable. And then I was sweating, and then I felt really nauseous. You know, you've got multiple signs of a heart attack going on here, but I don't think it's a heart attack. So I go to the people at the gym and I go, I'm on all fours, and they say to me, mate, you've just overdone it, mate. Here, we'll go and make you a protein shake. So they go and make me a protein shake, right? Meanwhile, that is the time of the major event. I'm having a heart attack, a quite substantial one. They talk about the number of enzymes, you know, and you might get 50 or 100 or 500. I think I got over the 50,000. I mean, I was ridiculous. So it was a goodie. I mean, it was a Richie McCaw-sized heart attack. And I laugh now, but I'm just so lucky. And then I drove to work thinking, oh, well, okay, this is saying I've overdone it. My wife saw me and said, honey, you look like shit. I mean, that's what wives are for. And so I went to my PA drove me to the doctor, and then we discovered, like, wow, like, you're having something or you've had something. Wow. And that's when that whole process started of just disbelief of like, no, I'm Jason Gunn, I'm healthy. I'm like, this doesn't happen. I don't drink, I don't smoke. It's like,
I go to the gym.
I go to the gym even. Used to. Never again. And it's like, what? And so then I remember getting to the downstairs, straight into ER, and the Scottish nurse coming up, she said, Jason, they did some tests, and I could see them talking to Janine, and she was looking worried, and I thought, oh, that's never good. I was like, maybe you should take that talk around the corner because I can see you talking. Like, just round the other side. Like, if he starts doing this, like, just thumbs down, it's like I can see all the signs you're giving. I don't do sign language, but I do those signs. So then the Scottish nurse kept said, Jason, look, we're going to take you upstairs because you've got to put a stent in, and I tell you what, there's going to be a lot of people upstairs. There's going to be are you okay with that? And all I remember saying was like, oh, I love a crowd. And I thought, yep, that's me. Even in time of near death. So I got up there, and I remember going in there, and there was a room of about 12 people, I don't know. And I remember saying to the doctor, hey, listen, just heads up, I don't do needles or blood, so if we could just avoid those two. And there was this moment of silence where everyone went, he knows he's having a heart attack, doesn't he? Like, he does. Needles and blood will be a part of this procedure. And then, we just, they sort of go into your artery and they put the stent in. And as they're doing, I remember doing this, I remember the surgeon saying to me, Jason, I just need 60 seconds of just absolute silence. I mean, many people have asked me for that over the years. And I just need 60 seconds of silence just to see, how bad this is. And I remember thinking that was the longest 60 seconds of my life.
So you did it. You were able to do it.
I did. The good news is I was able to do it, but the not so much the bad. The scary news is where your head takes you in that 60 seconds, because you realise in 60 seconds he's going to tell you you're toast, or you're going to be okay but not okay, or you're going to be fine. And that's when you just sit there and you think about your kids, and as I say, you want to meet their kids and all these things you assumed that you would do.
Yeah.
But you silly son of a bitch, son of a gun, that you've let yourself get to this state. And so then you're angry and you're sad, and so I'm crying there. And I remember the woman rubbing her hand saying, "It's okay." I went, "I'm scared, but I'm also angry at myself. How did I let me get here?" Because you've got to take responsibility for it. You can say, "Oh, it's genetics and stuff," but I go, No, I let myself get here. And so I was really upset. And then he said, "Look, it's a major artery is just completely blocked.
Wow.
We'll sort that out." And we went through it all. My favourite story from the heart attack is that night I'm sitting up in bed. Now, would it be 14 years earlier, my dad had died, and I wasn't there. I was overseas. He died from a heart attack. He didn't. He had a heart attack and he was fine. But then he had some medication, like a blood thinner, and it created a blood clot, and he died of that.
Oh,
so that night, when I had my medication, I thought, there's no way I'm going to sleep. I'm just staying up all night, because this is, to me, that was the most dangerous bit, right? I'm like, okay. So I'm sitting up there, and it's like 2 or 3 in the morning, and all of a sudden I look around, and there's nurses everywhere, and all I hear is there's the darkness and the machine that goes beep. And then there's this... All of a sudden, I turn around, and this man comes into the room, and I'm like, "Oh, hello." And he goes, "Hello, Jason, how are you?" Quite a tall chap, with a beard. I remember the beard, good set of hair. And he said, How are you doing, Jason?" I thought, a very calming influence over him, a very calming sort of way, and very reassuring. I said, "I'm really good, thank you." And he said, "Well, you've been through a lot today." And sort of like, he was sort of dressed all in white, and I thought, cool. And we're chatting about this, and he said, "Now you have permission, Jason, don't you, to make some changes in your life?" And I was like, "Do I?" And he said, "Yes, you can change who you are, what you do, how you are, and everyone will say, 'Well, he had a heart attack.'" I went, "Gee, that's a really good point." And I went to go, "You know what?" And as I turned, he'd gone. And I was like,
wow.
"Well, that is..." And then I thought, "Oh, wait a jolly minute." And I get the bell, and I'm ring-a-ding-a-ding-a-ding-a-ding, ringing on the bell. The nurse runs in.
Where is that doctor?
And I said, the nurse comes in, and she goes, "What happened? What happened?" I said, "Okay." This guy came in, and she said, "I'm going to stop you right there. Was he dressed in white with a beard? Did he ask you about the permission thing?" I went, "Yes." And she went, "Okay, you have not met Jesus. That is Dr. Roberts. He does that to everybody." I went, "Oh, son of a bitch. What?" We keep telling him to stop scaring the patients. I said,
Dr. Roberts.
Yeah, Dr. Roberts is his name. Apparently, famously just walks in the middle of the night to reassure patients.
Right.
I was like, wow, you should have just said nothing and played ignorant, So it turns out I didn't meet Jesus, but I met Dr. Roberts. So it was a really scary time, but that's when I knew you had to make changes, because I saw what my wife and my kids went through. So as much as it scared me, it scared them more. And you went, wow, I've got stuff I need to show you. I've got stuff I want to do with you. I'm so proud of you already, but boy, there's stuff I want to see you go and do. So hang on a minute. So that's when I went back to radio for a short time. Probably should have stopped right there, to be honest. But I went back there. And I blame myself, not radio, by the way. It's like, these are my own levels of perfection that I'd put on.
Yeah.
So it's nobody else's fault but my own. Went back to radio for a bit, and then I just got out. And then I got the phone call from Phil Cogan saying, you should do that thing.
You should do that talking thing.
Do that talking thing. Do you know what? My son Louis, we always call him Tony Robbins, because he was born with this. He's from another world.
Wow.
Actually, 3 or 4 of our kids are. And I remember I'm oversharing now. When I went back, radio said to me,
Yes.
you know what, Jace, you should, how about it if we just you give you a bit more money, you could stay on a bit longer. I was like, oh, yeah. Louis came downstairs and I was like chatting to Janine about it, my wife, and he said, what are you doing, Dad? He said, oh, mate, they've come back. And he just looked at me and said, you're not doing it. You're not doing it, Dad. You're not doing it. This, he said, his exact words were, this is not what success looks like, Dad. And I went, no, you're right. So I screwed it up and said, no, thank you, which went down not that great. And then I remember, because I didn't do radio anymore, he made the first 15 for his school in his final year. And because I wasn't doing radio, I was able to go to every single one of his rugby games. And he's the sort of kid who has the white wristband and he writes whānau on there and writes, has a word. And before every game, and I get emotional thinking about it, before every game of rugby, he would come up and give me this hug and he'd just say to me in my ear, this is what success looks like, Dad. It's like, and I still get emotional now, but I think that's what you got to remember, right? It's that's what, that's what success looks like. For me, it's time with my kids. Yeah. So, so that was a real eye-opener. Gilbert Anoka from the All Blacks, who we talked about that one day, and he said, Jason, remember this, it's not till you get your second chance at life that you truly realise you've only got one shot at life. I thought, that's pretty powerful.
Yeah,
I like
absolutely.
that.
It's deep.
Yeah.
Man, hats off to your boy. Those are great words and great example. And that's very heartwarming and cool to hear. Like I can picture and visualize that, just because my wife and I are lucky enough to have a few children and kids enjoying sports, so I can picture that moment that your son's having with you, and it's it's a beautiful picture to have.
And you realise that I don't need to be Jason Gunn off the radio or the TV. He just doesn't care. It's like as long as he sees a dad come home not frustrated and not tired, that's all he wants. He doesn't care the size of the house we live in, what car we drive. He just wants happy dad, right?
Beautiful. I was going to ask you on those, so many good points in here, but I'm also mindful of your time as well. But I've got a few more questions for you. If that's all right.
Yeah.
What advice, and I love how you've taken us on that journey with that, and I realise that that's still a condensed version, right, of the whole experience and everything that happened for you.
Yeah.
Because I was going to ask, did you get that protein shake?
Well, no. You know what? I'm so glad you asked.
Yeah.
So we get out of the hospital. You know, I believe it. And Janine says, "Well, you're never going back to that gym." We cancel the membership. Do you know the two things that happened?
What happened?
I got a cancellation fee, and they charged me for the protein shake. Can't believe it. They charged me for the shake.
That is unreal. And
yes, I sent an email back. I'm so sorry about the whole heart attack thing. It must have been terrible for you. Unbelievable.
Such an inconvenience.
And so
I'm so sorry.
Are you serious when you say you don't go back to the gym anymore? Or do you still train? Do you exercise, Jace? Or
I'm a bit naughty. I am naughty because I understand that motion equals emotion, right? Yep. So on the days I feel a bit grey, I know it's because I'm not. Coincidentally, I go, am I exercising? No. I've read more self-help books than anyone I know. I haven't applied a lot of it. So I'm trying to do that more so. So I'm back into my meditation and I am trying to exercise more.
Nice.
I don't know. Have I always been happy about my body? I'm leanish, but I have the ability to just put on little pockets of extra body. So I'm trying to be nice about it. Yeah. So I mean, I am lucky that I can lose weight. I can trim up quite quickly. Yeah. But I think I'm at the stage now. It's like, you know what? My son Louis during lockdown, where we've got no kids here sadly anymore. They're all fatting or out and about, having babies and doing stuff. But we built a gym in our garage during the first lockdown. Right. And I just loved working out with him. We live on 10 acres out in the country, so it's like, awesome. That's the best gym you can get, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So are you still using the gym out on the property with your son?
Sometimes. I've got a fancy bike in the garage there, which has got this big screen, and the bike goes up and down, and it does stuff, and I do a bit of that. Yeah. And I'm aware, because also the heart attack too, you're aware of cholesterol and all that sort of stuff. You've got to look after yourself. Have I made as many changes as I thought I would? Not really.
Yeah, right.
Not really. I always say to people who have had health scares, and look, there'll be many people listening who have, and you go, the thing about a heart attack is it's more of a brain attack than a heart attack. Like, for the rest of my life, it owns a piece of me, and that's what I'm shittiest about.
Yeah.
I'm not shitty about the heart attack. I've let that go. I'm shitty about, for the rest of my life, if I get a pain in my head, I've got a direct message to, you don't think that could be a, and I live with that, right?
Yeah,
but a lot of us live with something like that. So I made a video soon after my heart attack because I was taking 5 tablets a day. I'd never taken a tablet before. And I felt like an old man. And then I talked to a woman in the street about it, and she said, and she just had a heart attack. This was about 2 years later. And she was really struggling with the medication. So I said, listen, I made a video. I said, here's the deal, right? Here's the deal. I take these tablets, these 5 tablets. They're my wonder drugs. These are the longevity tablets. These are the tablets that are going to keep me here for a long life so I can be with my kids and be with my grandkids. And if I take these tablets, I should be excited about taking these tablets. So I look at it that way.
Right.
And I made a video about that. And it's amazing the number of people who responded to that going, shit, Jace, thank you, mate, because I used to see the tablets as a weakness as opposed to maybe they are enabling me to be here longer, in which case, give me the pills.
Show
me the pills.
Somewhere, someone needs to see or hear this, right?
There you go, right? There you go. And I think we all have it. I always say the biggest fault we all fall into when it comes to trying to find our story is your ordinary is someone else's extraordinary, right? You did something today that's like, oh yeah, that's just what I do. And someone else goes, dude, I've no idea how you just got through that. If you're talking about kids, I tie a shoelace, my granddaughter's like, what the hell did you? It's like you just landed on the moon. How did you just do that? When it comes to us, it might be me getting up to do a speech. I can just get up and do it, and others go, "What the hell?" But it could be little things. There's lots of things that we all do that others just can't do, and you should just talk us through that, and you could help a lot of people.
Man,
that's really not only really powerful. It is. You can feel the emotion around everything that you just described and talked about over the last few moments or few minutes. And I'm wondering if if we just kind of on that same thing, but I'm really wanting to explore something because, Jace, you are to me a one-eyed Cantabrian from what I see.
Got it? Yes.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yes.
Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that. So in New Zealand, there's what? How many islands? Was it 4, including the Chathams? And the mainland is where
exactly. Exactly.
Anyway, so back to my beloved hurricanes. So
you bless them.
We all have our weaknesses.
Yeah. We all have our weaknesses.
Yeah. We all have our flaws. And so,
So going back to what you were talking about, the emotion part. Now, there are 2 events in Christchurch that are significant emotionally. 22nd Feb 2011 and March 15th I forgot the year 2020
no you're right
2019
yeah
I'm wondering and I know for just about all of us New Zealanders we felt we were there I remember the earthquake and being glued to the TV. We moved our bed mattress and the kids were watching the TV and my kids were young. My brother-in-law was a police officer right in Central there at the time.
Wow.
So we were kind of living that experience through there. Joe and I's brother-in-law, and we were feeling that. And then when March 15th happened, and we go, that can't happen here. What are you talking about?
I know.
I'm wondering your feelings around that, considering that we've come across like in the last while, and you've shared this upbeatness and positiveness. But we're talking about 2 significant events that are really emotionally draining. I'm just wondering how you felt and how you were able to help others to be able to navigate through that.
Yeah, thank you. Well, again, there's 2 other significant events that, just will forever own a piece of your brain that they just wish you didn't. Disbelief. I remember when we had the September earthquake, we lived out where that really I thought a small plane or something had hit our house, because it's like we don't get earthquakes, so it's like I assumed, and it just kept going and going and going and going, and I was like, way. And I just grabbed the kids. I couldn't get up the stairs to their side of the house because the stairs were just moving too much. Right. They got down. I just said, "Don't look back! Don't look back! Don't look back! Don't look back!" And we got out, and I just couldn't believe it. It was the tens of thousands of aftershocks later that we will always be affected by. It's like I said with my heart attack, every indigestion you go, what? If you're in those earthquakes, every time a large truck goes past outside, you're like, what, sorry? Oh, no, that's okay. Yeah. It owns a piece of you, right? So there was that part, and we thought we got through it, and then there was the big one that hit and just destroyed our city, you know. And I'm away now emotionally, because I'm like, it's just a switch that goes, and you think, shit. I was 7 floors up in a building, and I assumed that was me gone. I just thought, well, we're not getting out of this, are we? And then I remember we got out of the building, and I remember just Janine, my wife, the day before, random, had sent me a text saying, if something happens one day, I'll meet you at the girls' school. What's the chance the day before? Wow. So I got to the bottom, we roll called everybody out of the building, and I thought, oh my God, the girls' school. So I ran about, I don't know, would it be 5 or 6 Ks? I don't know. I remember the noise and the smoke and the sirens and just the noise, horrific. The water going everywhere. And I remember running, and I remember in slow motion almost thinking, I looked around and all I could see was people running, and I thought, where are you all going? And I thought, oh right, we're all doing the same thing. What, we're running to our loved ones. It's like we don't know how we're going to get there. We don't know where they're at. We just need to get to them. That's all it is. So that affected my kids, and it just breaks your heart because it owns a part of their brain as well. Yeah. So, you know, so that to get through that was just unbelievable. I remember the Crusaders rugby team, in fact, they were homeless for a long time, and it was devastating because they won every game and then lost the final. But, you know, we lived through them, you know, just they got us through. Rugby played a more significant part for us all that season. It was, you know, through them we thought it was going to be okay. And I remember when the new stadium opened, so get this, the new stadium's there, the temporary stadium, which has been temporary for quite some time. But anyway, and we were all in. It was chocker, absolutely chocker, right? And we used to have this thing where the music play, you know, and the horses came out and the flags came out, and you went, wow. And you thought, oh, isn't it good just to be out? And you're just good to be out. Wow. And there's just this crescendo in that piece of music. And that note hit, right? And as I get emotional thinking about it, as that note hit, this team ran through the tunnel, and not a dry eye in the house, because you realised this is not about rugby tonight, is it? This is it. That could be anybody. What we've got here is a team of people running out, and what they're telling us is it's actually going to be okay. That's, you know, and I get emotional now thinking, because I remember that night sitting there with my kids and my wife and some of our friends going, maybe through all this shit we've been through, maybe it is going to be okay. So we dealt with all that, and we rebuilt. And I couldn't be more proud of it. And people come down and go, oh, you're still going. And I go, yep, but we're in no rush, because you only get one crack at it. So, and then, of course, that horrific day happened at our mosques. And that was just like, you just got to be joking. Yeah. Like, that's just, could it have happened anywhere? Yeah. I don't like people saying, oh, yeah, well, Christchurch is such a racist little town. It's like, it's really not. We've come a long way, Christchurch. So just put that to bed. Yeah. Thanks very much. I understand if you were in the 80s, you could potentially get away with that. But we've come a long way. It could have happened anywhere, but it happened in our town. And you know what? The same with earthquakes. We all know somebody who was affected by it. And that was another level of disbelief that could happen. You know, that just doesn't happen in our world, and it does. And you'd like to think that we got better because of it. I think we have. Have we gone back in some ways? Absolutely. But I still think we're better than we were. And a lot of us woke up from both of those events, and a lot of us needed to be perfectly honest. So, yeah, but look, there's still a lot of people hurting, obviously, from both of those events. And my son Louis used to play cricket every Saturday right opposite that mosque. And every time I parked the car and I would get out, and there'd be someone coming out of that mosque, and they'd be like, hello, hi, hey. You went, wow, well, hi, hey, hi. You'd never meet a more welcoming community, a more loving community. And that's kind of what made it worse for me, was that they represent so much of how so many of us should be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It would never be, don't get me wrong, it shouldn't happen to anybody, but it's just like, wow, I've been there and visited the mosque, and I was humbled and just amazed to be invited in to go, as anyone can be.
Yeah.
And they showed me around and they explained the day to me, and again, just no anger, not bitterness, just welcoming in. They want to move on, they want to explain who they are and how they are. It's just remarkable, truly remarkable. So, yeah, look, two massive events that will obviously own a space in our heads forever. And that's not bad, because I think there's a lot of learnings from those.
100%. Yeah, I was just going to mention, I agree, 100%. I think there's a lot of learnings to take away from that, and I love the fact that you've opened up and shared that, Jace, in response to Brian's question. Thank you very much for speaking so openly about that stuff, which is definitely not easy, and our hearts go out.
It's always there, isn't it? You know, it's always just, it's like a little tap, and I'm always amazed that it's very easy to turn on some days, but that again, that's not a bad thing, right? So it's good. My pleasure.
Thanks, Jace. I wanted to ask you. I want to just come back to probably a last few questions from my side. Challenging clients. So I know you've worked with a diversity of people in Australia and CEOs of cricket organisations in New South Wales, successful real estate agents and owners, CEOs, and that sort of stuff. Professional development leaders with with the Crusaders and all that sort of thing. Like a number of people. Have you had any or experienced any really challenging clients that you've tried to help communicate in a way to share their stories, to use that HEART acronym, and just thought to yourself, geez, go back home to Jenny and go, I don't think Joe and Brian have got any chance of being able to communicate.
No.
Quite frankly, that podcast is never going to see the light of day. Yeah, exactly.
Call it now.
I'm sure it's not even recorded. No. Look, definitely. Because, again, like I said, I have my passion, right? But what's great is that if you're not vanilla, what's passionate to me is not interesting to somebody else. So I totally get that. So I always just try and work with people who are, are interested in how that works.
Yeah.
Definitely. Some people just need a bit more work than others.
Right.
Like some people have, how do I say it? There's a few men I've worked with over the years who run large companies on significant incomes, and their idea of talking to their staff is, here's some words that the HR department wrote. I'm now going to read them out to you. And it's like, and I say to them, boy, that was shit. And they go, what do you mean? I'm just being honest. No one has the balls to tell you that. Yeah. I don't work for you, so I can. Yeah. And they'll go, well, what do you mean? And I'll go, well, it's just that it doesn't sound like it's your words. Well, what do you mean? They're not your words, are they? No? I go, exactly. I go, I feel I could read those words better than you. And they go, yeah, but you're a professional speaker. I go, yes, but I'm also have nothing to do with your line of work, do I? I don't know your stories. I just say there's not enough of you in the speech. It's never your speech until you can put down your words or bullet points. I'd rather you just have bullet points. Until you can put down your stories, someone else can race over and steal it and go, I have no idea what he's talking about. This never happened to me. That's when it's your speech, your story, right? If someone else can read it, it was never your speech to start with. So I find getting people to put down the piece of paper and just read bullet points and trust themselves is the hardest thing of all. And yep, there'll always be a couple who I'll hit against the wall, go, no, I just want to read this. And I go, well, you're just never going to connect. And you're never going to be memorable. I think this, I don't say it until I see Janine. And so those are the ones really, often it's businesses where possibly people have told them they should change, go and see Jason. But they don't want to change. And people need to want to change or learn. You know, we need to want to learn, don't we?
Yeah.
The old lead a horse to water thing. So I guess those are the only hardest ones or frustrating ones, is when I see people in positions where they could be so vulnerable and reassuring. You know, I just say to all people who talk to their teams right now, just talk to them. Just don't do fancy things. Pick up your phone on a Monday, right? If you're dropping your kids off at school, whatever, and just go, hey guys, listen, it's a Monday and I'm just starting a brand new week. And you know what? I just want to say I'm really excited about this week, and thank you for all the great work that you do. You know, I've had a great weekend watching my kids play sport. I hope you've had great time with your family too. Let's make this week a great week. That's a speech. You know, inspire people with words like that, as opposed to, here's some bullet points I like to run through, a little chart I made over the barbecue. It's like, oh God. So just keeping it real. So the only hard or the harder ones are the ones who probably just fight that change a bit.
Right. And have you had to drop any because they were just like, you could feel or see that they just weren't willing to come to?
No, I'm pretty lucky, and I'm
cool.
pretty stubborn. So I'll call it out if I say, look, I disagree. I don't think that's working.
Yeah.
And then I'll just come back to them and say, I'll ask them, I'll empower them. Tell me, at the end of the speech, I'm in the audience. What is it you want me to think? What do you want me to know? What do you want me to do? Right. So you want me to know that? Okay. How is it you want me to feel? Yeah. Hey buddy, I ain't feeling it. So what are you going to do about that?
Perfect.
What are you going to do about that? Don't make me bring in your staff, because I will. So it's that thing about ask them what they want their people to feel, and then go, cool. I don't feel that.
Nice.
So, and you work with them. I understand.
Yeah.
Listen, it's like, you know, one thing someone taught me a long time ago. Hey, people go, oh, Jace, you're such a great speaker, and I'm humbled by that. But they might go on a 1 to 10. You know, Jason, you're a 9 or a 10. I don't think so. And I'll look at them and go, and you're a 2, and which is cool. But here's the thing I need to be careful of. They don't need to be or want to be a 10. They may just want to get to a 4. Fine with that, right? Let's get you to a 4. I don't need more Jason Gunns. Lord knows, 1 is enough. So, you know, I've got to be careful how much I push the change. They don't need to drop all their words. I'm just challenging them to just, you know, to think outside their safety zone. Yeah.
Awesome.
It's funny when you talk about that. The first thing that came to mind when you talk about these difficult clients was that Blackadder scene with the prince, and the prince was learning to speak with the
yes.
What do you call it? The actors.
Yes.
All great orators roar.
Yeah. Oh, God, you see. Now, talk about British comedy earlier, right? Now, there's a series, right? Unbelievable.
Man, beautiful. I've got some last few questions from me. I think they'll probably be rapid fire ones for you, Jace. Just go.
Okay.
I want to ask you, favorite movie?
Back to the Future.
Future.
Star Wars.
Wow.
Star
Okay.
Wars. I know all the words to series 4 and 5, episode 4 and 5 of Star Wars, used to. But Back to the Future, you know, also one of the greatest movies of all time.
Brilliant. Love it. Favorite?
By the way, the first Star Wars, episodes 1 and 2, they don't exist in my world. Absolute.
No.
George Lucas had a breakdown around that time of his life. It's like, what are you doing? And he tried to screw with my childhood, and I refused to watch it. So let's move on.
Brilliant. Thanks for that. I wanted to ask, favorite actor and actress?
Michael J. Fox, I met him once when he was here filming Frighteners, and he was the most beautiful man, and he was just like so friendly. And
awesome.
Again, you wanted one-word answers, and I can never give them. Yeah. We were asked if we could meet him and give him an all-black shirt, me and Thingy, and he was like, his agent said, look, no, he's not meeting anybody. We went, oh, it's a shame. So we took the shirt up to his trailer because we knew where he was. I'm up at the trailer where he's, you know, this big fancy motorhome. The phone rings, it's his agent. He said, you know what, Michael is coming up the hill, and he said, if you can be there, he'll talk to you. I went, what changed? And he said, his son was watching you and Thingy on TV, and he really liked him, and probably Thingy, not me, and was just like, so he said, he'll do it. So I went, oh my God, now how's this for classy, right? I turn around, there's a car coming up the hill, and I go, oh God, biggest fan. Roll record. We start rolling. He gets out of the car and he goes, hey, son of a gun, look who it is. It's Jason and Thingy. And I went, okay, I can die now. Seriously, I'm done. It's not going to get any better than that. But how classy is that? I said to him, oh my God, you know who we are. Hey, son of a gun, of course I know who you are. Yeah, I watch the show with Thingy all the time. I thought, and I always remember that and how it made me feel. I don't care. I'm assuming he hadn't watched a lot of the show, but he'd done enough research to ask someone. Yeah. And so, I learnt from that thinking, I'm always going to try and do that to anyone that I can. And I am no Michael J. Fox, please. I'm that to nobody. But if anybody asks me anything, I'm going to play that game. I thought, what a guy. Famous actress.
That's awesome.
Oh, great. Gee, that's a great question. I'll probably say my daughters, Eve and Grace.
Eve and Grace.
They are in a series called Good Grief.
Yep.
It's about a couple. They wrote it. It's a bit risque. It's on TVNZ On Demand, and it is a series about two young sisters who fight a lot, and they inherit their grandfather's funeral home, and it's so funny. And it's called Good Grief.
Good Grief. Yeah, nice, awesome. I like that. Wife and children's birth dates, go.
Well, that's difficult, isn't it? Because I know Janine's the 24th of June. That I know.
Right.
Okay. Now, Faith is the 23rd of July. Grace is the 9th of November. Eve is the 28th of August. And Louis is the 17th of April.
Oh, man, that's pretty good.
Good save.
I hope they're listening to it and that you got one of the dates wrong and that they call you up.
Yeah, I know. In my head, I'm not 100% present with you right now because I'm like, oh, gosh. Wait a minute, yeah.
Favourite food, Jace?
Favourite food?
Yeah.
Oh, see, now that's tough. I love myself a good roast chicken.
Roast chicken.
Love myself a good roast chicken. Oh, look.
Janine's roast chicken or your mum's roast chicken?
No, well, either or. I mean, sometimes we've literally been coming home from somewhere and I'm just hungry and I'll just go, I'm just going to whip into the supermarket and I'll whip in there and just get a roast chicken. And I'm into it like a grizzly bear.
Nice. Favourite restaurant?
Oh, 5th Street. My cousins own it. It's in Christchurch.
Yep.
What do I love about it? It's they love food. They're so passionate about preparing food, trying new things out. I've never tasted food like it. The service is amazing, and I go there as like the proudest cousin in the world. So
nice.
5th Street. 5th Street. Yep.
5th Street restaurant. Nice. All right. And last couple. Oh, yeah, this one here. Favourite music and favourite artists. Favourite genre of music and favourite artists.
Well, you see, I do collect movie soundtracks.
Yeah.
So not the singing ones, the sort of incidental music. So all your Alan Silvestris and John Williams and James Horners and Hans Zimmers, it's like I'm just like, oh, I know. So I will listen to nice music.
Yeah.
And of a movie. See, I haven't seen the Batman soundtrack, but I've listened to them. I've listened to the sound. I haven't seen the movie, but I've listened to the soundtrack so much that I know the music now.
Yeah, right.
So when I go to the movie, it's going to be, and there it is, right there you see. So I just love. So like for example, the theme, all the soundtrack. If you listen to, what is that? Was it Too Young to? What is the latest James Bond film that came out? Let's not talk about what happens.
Something die.
Not to die. Not Too Young to Die. Something, I don't know, something.
Yeah.
That one, everyone's listening's going, for God's sake, guys, get the name right. Hans Zimmer is the composer, and it's just the soundtrack is just. In fact, if you listen to the if I may be so geeky, if you listen to the Final Ascent track, it is, oh God, it is unbelievable. Yeah.
All right. Sounds good. I have one more question for you, but I'm going to wait till after Brian might have a few questions that he might have that because I've been hogging all the time. But that's what he gets for being too slow.
Yeah, too slow. It's that moment. Timing's everything.
Timing's everything.
Dang it. I just I've been enthralled the whole time.
Thank you, mate.
Absolutely enthralled. And I've been thinking about all these things that above, and what I'm really loved was all these one-liners, boom, 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 and it's like stuck in my head. It's like, oh man, this is so cool. Which I'm hoping to be able to take back and when I reflect back on this, I'm going to, what can I learn from this, and what can I pull from this? What can I use from this? So thank you for doing that for me, because there was a hidden agenda. Yeah, it was a hidden agenda.
Yes. Look, look, it's interesting. You know, everyone talks about the monkey mind, you know, and yes, Jason, he does. I'm talking about me in the third person, but, you know, he does talk very fast and this and that. But, you know, what you try and do is you just try and keep the mind sort of slow, you know, and keep that calm. And I always find if you can slow that down and have moments of just where you listen and you breathe, and you can go and talk fast and have energy, but then just bring it back to neutral. I call it the traffic light, right? In life, and when you're communicating. Before Jacinda Ardern had the traffic light, I had one myself, actually, as he said. And the orange is where we sit. That's where we tell a story. That's where we comfortably sit with good energy, right? And then we get a bit excited and we tell something. We go to green. It's like, oh my God, this is it. We get into a story. Then we come back to orange, and then, if we want to slow it down and really be heartfelt, that's red, right? So what I say to people is, when you're telling a story or giving a presentation or something, look at it from a traffic light. Get a marker out, a red, an orange, and a green one. It should be mainly orange, but show me where in your speech it's got moments of green, and show me where in your speech it's got moments of red, because it can't be all orange. If it's all green, they're going to be exhausted. If it's all red, they're going to be depressed. So it's got to be mainly orange, but sprinklings of red and green. So that, I mean, and that's not a bad thing for life, is it?
Yeah, great advice. I think a lot of application for that there as well. Yeah. Sorry, Brian.
Yeah, no, and it just really gave me pause to reflect on my comm style as well. So when I'm trying to interact with others, and I think, I could see how I could do this and do that. So I really appreciate that. But what I really like, and which I feel like, and I think Joe would agree with me, I felt like I've just met my new best friend.
Oh, bless you. Thank you, man. That is such a wonderful compliment. You know, and you know what that is, though? But you know, don't underestimate yourselves, right? You bring good questions, not even the questions. You bring a wairua, a spirit. You bring a wayness about you, which is like you present this to this podcast, right? You bring it, and I fall into it. Equally, you could bring a different vibe, a different aura, and I would adjust myself. So if you're seeing a version of me that you like, you need to turn the mirror and go, well, you know, look, we created that. So it's, you know, remember, I always say that's true. When you are a host or of a show, or, you're really the guide, aren't you? It's your job. Please, this sounds very awkward to talk about me, but your job is to make your guest the star of the show, and you are to guide everyone through this, which is exactly what you're doing. You're the GPS in this podcast with me. Lord knows where we'd be without your roadmap. So probably back on the first question. So yeah.
No, thank you very much, Jason. It's so humbling to hear, and especially somebody of your caliber, and just we're very grateful to have you on the podcast. Our celebrity on the podcast, B. We've made it.
Well, I'd seen that. That's an interesting word. It's like when I see that show, Celebrity Treasure Island. I'm like, what? I'm like, would you shut up? Like, New Zealand. Do we have any celebrities?
Yes,
I don't.
Jason Gunn.
Not on it. No, we don't. No, as in not like me. No one on television or radio can be deemed to be a celebrity. There are people out there really making a difference who I wouldn't even call a celebrity, because I don't think that's not enough of a word for what they do. It's a funny word, isn't it? The problem I have with the word celebrity is that I know a few people who think they might be one, and for that reason, I'd never want to be called one.
Yeah, okay, I got you. All right, fair enough. Makes perfect sense. We've got
my mate Jace. I'll go with that.
My mate Jace.
Yeah.
Our mate Jace. Thank you. I have last question that I'd like to ask you, Jace, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah.
What is Jason Gunn's definition of a better future?
Right, great question, isn't it? I think. It is. I'll make it complicated, but it's quite simple. I think it's being more present in the now. You see, the one thing, being here now, right? people talk about COVID and, oh, it's done this and that. Don't get me wrong. It has torn families and businesses apart.
Yeah.
Look, I can't, my business, I can't think of the money I've lost. I really don't want to. It's wow. And there's been days where I've had empty calendar after empty calendar. So I'm not belittling what it's done. What's a positive spin? Here's what it is. I don't know with this COVID. I don't know where we're going to be in 6 weeks. All right, I don't know where we're going to be in 2 weeks. Hey, knock, knock. You never did know. All I know is with COVID is that, let me tell you about where I'm at with COVID in New Zealand and the world right now.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm here with you two, right? Life is good. We're smiling. We're telling stories. We're present. I'm here right now. Today is good. I didn't know I was going to have a heart attack on that day. Not the week before, not a month before, right? So you've got to live in the now. And so maybe that's what we're supposed to learn from COVID. Maybe it's just being here now and being grateful for that. And by the way, I'm teaching myself this as well, because I think we're really good at getting something, an object, a person, something happens, and within a minute, we're thinking about the next thing. We're eating lunch, it looks great, and then we're talking about what's for dinner. What the hell? It's like, it's like be in the now. So I think if we can learn more to be in the now and find gratitude, what I get over with mainstream media is just you bombard me with what is wrong with the world. Someone once taught me on the news at night, they say, good evening, and then spend 60 minutes telling you why, in fact, it's not a good evening. And it's like, where the power of podcasts and like what you do, you share hope, you share gratitude, you give us something to smile about. And I think going forward, that's what a healthy future is. It's about living in the now and being grateful for what we've got, because we don't ever actually know when we're not going to have it.
Man, beautiful. So powerful. And just great words. Jace, I want to share with you my closing remarks before I let Brian close things up.
Man. Thank you.
But I just want to acknowledge you and thank you for your time, for these words. I've taken a heck of a lot of notes. If I was to look at these and just try to talk to some of those, the know, feel and do, if I was to look at and take from your comments around what Brian and I'm going to take the liberty of speaking on behalf of Brian for a little bit here as founders of this podcast. But if we wanted our guests, or not only our guests, but our audience to know something, is the authenticity and genuineness that comes through you when you speak, and the messages and the power of the communication that in that art form that it is. That's what I've taken from just a small piece about what you've shared. If we wanted them to feel a certain way, we'd love for them to feel about the power of the connection of those stories when you're able to connect with the people that you're trying to speak with, whether it's through the little lens. I like when you do all of that stuff. When we're speaking through the lens or speaking in person, that would be great. We'd love for them to feel the power of that connection. And your coffee shop story or lived experience with the gentleman who lost his brother is a powerful piece around that. And if we wanted them to do anything, we'd love for them to take it on board. I shared with you and asked you for your advice, which you freely gave. Well, I have some people that are lacking a little bit of confidence. They're worried about what some prick might think or laugh or say about them. But I would challenge that and want them to just get out there and do it and listen to the words that you've shared, or better yet, contact you at Easily Said and get some advice and help and coaching and training there. I love the piece around somewhere someone needs to see and hear this, or hear and see this. Just as I know, as I look to wrap this piece up here, somebody somewhere needs to see and hear the messages that you've shared and taken the time with us today. And much love to you, Jace, and your beautiful family. We thank you very much for being a special guest here on the Epich Aotearoa Create a Better Future podcast. And we wish you continued success, and we look forward to connecting with you again down the track, if that would be okay.
Absolutely.
And calling you our mate now, because that's what I'm going to be bantering my mate Jason.
I'm part of the whānau, so that's just the way it is. So I don't know whose place we're going to for Christmas dinner, but I'm just saying these are things we need to work out.
Yes, we need to work out.
Indeed.
Thank you very much, Jace. Appreciate you,
Thanks,
brother.
Man.
And
Thank you.
Very, very grateful to have you on. Brian, I'll let you say any last words, and then we'll close it up.
Beautiful. Jason, tā toko, everything that Joe has said, I'm grateful that we have managed to spend this small amount of time being in the presence of your wairua. You have shared and touched us, and my hope going forward is that For those that will be listening to this podcast, you've just heard something special. You really have. And my encouragement is to listen, really listen to what is being said and take that on board in some small way. Because what I've taken back is this is not about going from 0 to 100. This is about taking your journey. And that might be from 0 to 10 or 0 to 5. Then 50 or whatever it is. And you can implement some of these things along the way. And like Joe, I am super, super stoked that we're going to Joe's house, all of us, for Christmas. Yeah.
Yes. I was looking at you, Joe. I mean, when I said whose house, I assumed it would end up at Joe's. I just think, I know the layout of your house, Joe, so I think it works best. Yeah, I think it does work best for us.
Oh, very kind of you both. Yes, thank you. Yep, sounds good. We need to book that in.
Thank you guys. Honestly, just it's so good, and I just feel so comfortable just talking with you and just sharing a bit of my journey and my stories, and and I understand. And I really wanted to say this too. I understand there's a lot of people really struggling and hurting at the moment, and particularly a lot of people in small business like mine. What I love with Easily Said is that I have such empathy for people because I'm a small business, and some days it's all go and some days it's all not. And there's that word pivoting, but there's been a lot of that going on and changing, and just self-doubts crept in for me in my business, a bit of imposter syndrome. But I'm married to a beautiful wife who just reminds me you're on a great journey, Jace, so just keep going. And my kids remind me you're doing great things. So you know what, I just want to keep doing that. And I don't like plugs, but I will look, if there is anyone listening who just thinks, look, I really do want to just get better at speaking. I do all sorts of different things. I take master classes to groups of people. I do a lot of one-on-ones. And we're about to launch something I'm really excited about, which is the Easily Said storytelling. So it's like an academy, basically, where there'll be like a subscription thing where you can sort of come along and get video content and audio content and all sorts of things. And look, I just invite people just to go to easilysaid.co.nz and see if there's something I can help with. And if there's not, I will not be offended. But, just know that, speaking and communicating and connecting is everything in the world. And there's every reason you don't feel good about it now, but there's so many reasons I can help you with that. So I'd love to meet you.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much, Jace. Aotearoa, New Zealand.
Awesome, team.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, Aotearoa, New Zealand, you've heard it here. Go to easilysaid.co.nz. Jason is a legend of a man. Thank you very much once again, mate. And we look forward to speaking with you again down the track.
Can't wait. See you at Christmas.
See you at Christmas. It's on now. It's Christmas time. All right.